When you work every day but still broke.
Manny, why are you crying?
I have no money.
What happened?
I have no money.
Working every day in America, but still broke. Some people believe that the American dream is dead.
The American dream is dead.
The dream of making good money, having the family you desire, and being comfortable enough to afford anything you need. The dream of the children will do better and achieve more than their parents is gone.
Can somebody explain to me in crayon eating terms why I make over 3 times the federal minimum wage and I cannot afford to live? And I do not want to hear the pull yourself up from your bootstraps, work 90 hours a week. That's not the goal, guys. That should not be our standard. I am so fucking tired of people being complacent with this uniparty, both of them fucking us over. When my parents were my age, they both made less than half of what I make, and they lived alone. I cannot afford to live anywhere alone. A 1-bedroom apartment, $1,800. 2-bedroom apartment, $2,200. Who the fuck can afford that? It is embarrassing to come out and say that it is a struggle to survive right now, but I know so many people are struggling. And do not get me started on what my grandparents were doing. They $3,000 house. And yes, I understand inflation and all of the bullshit that they have been pulling with the Fed. Why are we allowing it? Why? And then I clock out of my shift. I am tired. I have to go home. And I check the news. Another 60 fucking billion to a country nobody can point out on a map. What are we doing? Where has the plot gone? We have lost it, folks. We have fucking lost it. The American dream is dead. It is over. Gone and forgotten.
The older generation had it easier with their job market and their economy. The current economy and job market is a total mess.
Can somebody explain to me in crayon eating terms why I make over 3 times the federal minimum wage and I cannot afford to live?
I know he kind of answered the question himself in his own video, but I want to highlight one thing he briefly mentioned and talk about it, which is that the American dream is dead. Yes, the traditional American dream, which is like doing better than your parents and being able to provide a lot for your family, is dead, or at least it's changed. Because there are many of us that are well aware that we will never be able to make as much money as our parents did. And I think my mother, who is a boomer and benefited directly from the system in place, said it best when she once said, roughly, that the American dream has changed. It's become very apparent to everyone that in this economy, Gen Z, millennials, and some Gen Xers, many of us will not be able to do better than our parents. We won't even be able to do as well as our parents. And now the American dream has become just being able to get by, being able to maybe afford a house at some point, maybe have a kid or two if we're lucky enough to make that much money. And a lot of us, myself included, who has now experienced company like financial related layoffs twice so far in the last 2 years since I've entered the job market. You know, those of us who feel like we're constantly in fight or flight about bills and how we're going to keep making it by, it's making us miserable and feel so hopeless. And yes, I could sit here all day and show you graphs of how like inflation is going up, and while wages are going up, it's just not matching inflation. So it feels like we're all just constantly working and working, and the goalpost just keeps getting moved further and further away from us. And yeah, it has a lot of us extremely stressed and worried and feel like just giving up because we're constantly running a race where the finish line is getting moved further out. And I think it's obvious that we're all just really exhausted by it now. I know I am. I'm constantly hitting a wall with all of this. And a lot of us have to wake up every day blatantly knowing we will never do as well as our parents did. And we just have to try to make it, somewhat close to that. I'm sorry. My dad passed away several years ago on this date. So I'm just thinking about him, and sometimes I feel like he'd be proud of me, but sometimes I feel like he'd be very disappointed. But he was also an extremely intelligent businessman with multiple degrees, so I think he, more than anyone, would really understand what we're all feeling right now.
Hello fam, how you all doing? Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Thanks. The American dream is dead or has shifted. they say. People are working full-time jobs, feeling tired, drained, but still broke. How? So many workers are giving their best, their 100% into their jobs, but they still get laid off. Why? The current economic crisis and inflation is a huge problem.
Hi guys, I just got let go from my job. I wasn't expecting that this morning, so I'll be fine. I worked for Midday Squares in marketing. They had to let go of the marketing division, which is fine. It just came as a bit of a shock. I'm a strong believer that everything happens for a reason. Able to maybe make more TikToks and create more content for you guys. Oh, I'm gonna miss it. I'm really gonna miss it. It was amazing. And I've learned so much in the past 8 months. I'm still in the parking lot. I haven't moved because I actually don't know how I'm gonna drive home. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys and just be really real. This is life. And you gotta get up and keep grinding. If anyone's hiring in marketing, anyone knows anyone that's hiring a marketing specialist, I'm free. Onwards and upwards from here. Okay, bye.
If you have a full-time job, keep your full-time job, start a part-time business and work it and work it and work it. Look at what you do in your spare time. And people go, I have no spare time. Well, yes, you do. If you broke it out, how much are you watching TV? How much are you on your iPhone, playing video games, doing things that really are not important? And take that time and channel it into a business that you want to create.
I've always said this, as an employee, the business is not yours. Your spot in that organization is not permanent. You can get fired at any given time. You can get replaced at any given time. Your job should be a source for your capital. The focus should be getting your capital and starting your own business in the future. Some people might be quick to say, you know what, I'm not into all them entrepreneurship stuff. I'm not a business kind of a person, but you're more than happy to work on someone else's business. Does that even make sense? You believe that you're not a business kind of a person because you've not given it a try, because you feel like you have other options, the option of going out there and getting employed. It's more stable, more secure when you have your own thing running for you. So for me, like I said, your job should be a source of capital for you. No matter how little your business is, or no matter how little the side hustle you might have or you're planning to have is, make sure you invest in that. Start it now. Work towards making that happen, because you can only trust yourself. That's if you know who you are. But you cannot trust the next person, which means you cannot trust what your boss might do tomorrow. You can't trust what your organization might do tomorrow. They might wake up tomorrow and say they don't need you anymore for no reason whatsoever. Don't ever go to someone else's business and feel relaxed. Oh, because I have this position, my future here is secure. Don't feel relaxed and at home in someone else's business, because it's not yours. Your time is limited there. Your days are numbered.
Hey, I don't know if y'all saw the video of the girl who was unfortunately fired from her job, and she said it was because she was too efficient or too good. And I gotta say, why are we giving 100% at these jobs? I thought we had an understanding. Are we not all on the same accord? Like, the very first piece of advice I got when I got to the office or corporate side of things was, well, actually it was, don't get your money and your honey in the same place, which is true, but that's not the point. The second piece was, make your 50% your 100%. And this was coming from a very well-respected, high-performing, highly regarded engineer who was retiring. And I'm not saying that I do this personally, but it has certainly stuck with me all these years. He said, you get a new project. They ask you how long it's going to take. You know you can get it done in 2 weeks. Tell them you're going to take 4. This way, when they come back and beg you to speed up the timeline, you can say stuff like, oh, I'm going to have to work late nights. I'm going to have to work on it at home, things like that. But then you get it done in 3 weeks. Whole time, you had it done a week ago. This way, you don't get burnt out and you look like someone that's dedicated and you look like a superstar. Now, obviously, don't be the lowest performing person in your department. That's stupid, right? Let's use our common sense. But don't burn yourself out either, is what I'm saying. Or what he was saying, not me.
A lot of the people that you work with, they don't know what they're doing. These people make a lot more money than you because they know they don't have to be the smartest person. They don't have to be the most competent. They need to appear competent which really is just being liked by enough people to be put in those positions and to make a lot more than what you're making. I coach people all the time who are so critical of themselves. I'm not smart enough, or I, don't have the experience. I can't apply for that job. I can't move into that field. I can't do this. I can't do that. But I look at their resume and I talk to them. These people are smart. You all are so hard on yourselves. And meanwhile, there are people who are getting paid a lot of money at these companies where you work, and they make bad decisions all the time. They don't know what they're doing. They're just trying stuff. Doesn't work out, they know who to blame. It will never be themselves. I'm not saying that you shouldn't value being smart, being intelligent. I'm saying you waste time on just being good at the work, you'll continue to be the worker bee, while other people do a lot better than you financially. A lot of you are spending a lot of time on the action part when there's the selling it part and the politicking part that is part of climbing the corporate ladder. If you don't want to, feel free to watch many of my videos which talk about what to do when you don't want to climb the corporate ladder. The more likable you are, the more competent you appear, even if you are not.
Don't give all your time to your job. Make time for your own business or passion that will generate you income in the future. Economic crisis and inflation affect the job market and the employees way more than it affects the entrepreneur. If the entrepreneur is feeling the brunt of it trickles down to him adjusting his income. If the job owners are affected, they usually make drastic adjustments that usually affect the employees and the job seekers that are usually found down the food chain. These changes does affect the employees in so many ways. You might be required to work more because you need to make more money. Times are hard, so you have so much pressure on you, which might lead to burnout, and you have no time for other things. You're giving your best, you're giving more time into your work, but your income is not changing as much as the economy of the country is changing. Your income is not matching up with your inflation because the increment is not good enough. You might start struggling with paying your rent because definitely there will be increment in the rent. Childcare might also become an issue. Everybody is going to increase their price because people need to also adjust to the crisis, the inflation and all that. So it's important for you to have your own business. It's good for you to have your own thing running for you because you would want to be the people making the decision, not the people receiving the effect of the decision. Employers are not at the bottom of the food chain. They make the decision. The employees are at the bottom of the food chain. They receive the effect of the decision. So you need to make up your mind, where do you want to belong? The middle, the top, or the bottom of the food chain? It's up to you.
It costs anywhere between $100,000 to $120,000 to send one child to daycare here in the state of Massachusetts until they reach public school age. So from ages 0 to 5 years old, you'll be paying about $20,000 a year for your kid to go to daycare or any form of childcare, whether that be a nanny or a nanny share. That's the cost. That is the average cost here in the state of Massachusetts. It varies throughout the country. Some states are much more expensive, some are much less expensive. But $100,000 is the average cost to have one child in childcare. So when we talk about declining birth rates, this is a huge factor. Millennial parents and millennials in general cannot afford to have children because we already know that the cost to raise a child currently, as it's stated, is $237,000 to raise your child to the age of 18. This does not include college. This does not include any extra activities, no after school activities, no sports, nothing. $237,000. Now you take that and you multiply it by multiple kids, it becomes very unsustainable very quickly. Then you add on college. College tuition alone is $100,000 these days. So now you are not only paying $100,000 for childcare, $100,000 to raise them on the bare minimum, which is like food, healthcare, clothing, and then $100,000 for college. Families cannot do it. They can't do it. And so they're choosing not to. They're opting out, which I totally get because that's an insane amount of money. Childcare alone is inaccessible and unaffordable. Even if you can find childcare, which is very difficult to do, it's questionable as to whether or not you can afford it. And the cost continues to rise. It's the thing that is rising the most compared to all other expenses for families. Childcare is rising faster than everyone else or everything else. It's rising faster than home costs, electricity, groceries. It is the fastest rising cost. So people are choosing not to have children. because they cannot afford it. And it's obviously always been the case that having children is expensive, but it is the most expensive decision a family will make. It is the most costly decision. I think it has a bigger financial impact than owning a home or buying a car or like any of those big decisions. Having a child is the one, right, that will impact you financially in the biggest way. And one of the biggest reasons is because of childcare. And we have a country that does not support parental leave. It does not provide any sort of funding or infrastructure around childcare to support families. Like, there is nothing to support families. And so that birth rate is probably going to keep dropping, because also we know that salaries are not changing. Inflation's rising, childcare is rising, home prices are rising, interest rates are rising, and our salaries are staying the same. And I can bet you that if that stays the same, people will continue to choose to not have children. Last year, my husband and I spent about $60,000 on childcare. That's an insane number. And people often ask us how and why. Well, the how is the average cost of childcare for one kid in full-time daycare in our state here in Massachusetts is about $20,000. And so $60K for 4 kids isn't that bad, which is crazy to say. So that's how we spend that much, because it costs about $20,000 per kid to go to full-time care. Now, we have 4 kids. We have one in public school, so they just need after-school care. And we have one who's still at home. She's about 15 months old. She cannot get into daycare. There are no available spots for her until she's 2. And so we have in-home part-time help for her. And that's why we're not paying $80,000 a year. And the question people often have for us is, aren't there less costly options like in-home daycares or nannies? Well, nannies are more expensive, and in-home daycares have very limited availability, right? And their hours typically are not conducive to a working parent schedule. They close earlier, they have half-day Fridays, whatever it might be. And the spots are hard to come by, just like a center-based daycare. So that's how we spend this much money. The why? The why is because we both value working, and we see a future earning potential for us and our family that goes past the next 5 years. It is important for both of us to keep working, and for me to keep working, because the question is always, why don't I stay at home? For me to keep working, because my earning potential will help support the future we hope to have for our family. We hope to be able to support our kids when going to college or buying their first home or whatever it might be. And we are privileged enough to earn enough money for it to make sense for us to both work. And I know that is incredibly privileged. And what fires me up about this childcare crisis is that we struggle and we are privileged. The average American cannot afford childcare. They cannot find childcare. And the fact that people are determining what their families look like based on these issues, the fact that childcare is inaccessible and unaffordable, is sad and devastating, because this did not plague previous generations. Nobody was saying, I'm only having 1 kid because I can't afford more daycare. I'm only having 1 kid because we can't get off a wait list for the first one, so I can't afford to have 2 kids at home with me while I work full time. Nobody was saying that before. This is a problem. This is a very real problem that's come about in the last 5 to 10 years, and something we need to talk about and talk about often, because it is hurting women. Women in particular are leaving the workforce in mass amounts. They are limiting their childbearing options, right? They're saying, I can only have one. I can only have one. If we have a third accidentally, it will devastate us financially. That is such a hard place to be. And we need to be doing more for families, because there is no world in which we should all be scared of our future because of the cost of childcare.
With the current state of the global economy, you just can't wake up and decide to have a lot of kids like our parents did in the past. You have to be very calculative and intentional with your decision. Everything is expensive. Childcare is expensive. Housing expensive. The most annoying part of it is this: the salaries are not increasing. Even if you see increment, it's little. The increment in the salary is not equating the inflation. So that means people are not supposed to survive. People are supposed to die, because that's what makes sense to me. So I think with the way things are going, having just one job is not going to help. Having to invest all your time in one work is not going to help. You should think about having your own staff, because the person you're working for might decide not to continue that organization, or might decide to lay people off, and you might be one of the unlucky employees. So you should have a foresight. You should think ahead. If you're saying that you will only do things you want to do and things you feel comfortable doing, you might never move forward in life. Those people that say they don't believe that being an entrepreneur is a thing for them, you have to think twice. There are books out there. Get books, read, take baby steps. It's a little by little step process. Don't just jump into it. But you need to make up your mind. This is something you have to do because you have to think about the future. We don't know where the global economy is driving to because things are just getting messy as the day goes by. So you need to think about your life, and if you have kids, also think about the future of your kids. You don't want to die of starvation someday. You get. And if you're working, also try to cut down on the kind of things you spend your money on. These days, people buy things they don't need. People buy things because people are buying it or because they saw it on TikTok, they saw it on social media. You should get your priorities right so you don't get into debt and begin to have extreme struggle when it comes to your finances. I know I did mention that you should consider getting another job, but when you do that, do things in moderation so you don't end up having health issues, mental health issues, and you spend all the money that you actually don't even have in the hospital. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Click this video to watch people complain about their work. They are quitting, they're tired, and they're not getting proper pay. Click this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.